Welcome to Orchestrate All the Things. I'm George Anatiotis, and we'll be connecting the dots together. Stories about technology, data, AI, and media, and how they flow into each other, shaping our lives.
Everyone's talking about AI, but few people actually understand it, and even fewer are asking the right questions about what it means to live and work alongside it. In this episode, I sit down with Michel Bauwens, founder of the P2P Foundation and one of the sharpest thinkers on civilization, technology, and collective intelligence. We talk about what AI actually is and isn't, why the hype creates real risks and damage, and what it looks like to use those tools without giving away your agency or critical thinking.
I hope you will enjoy this. If you like my work on Orchestrate All the Things, you can subscribe to my podcast, available on all major platforms, my self-published newsletter, also syndicated on Substack, HackerNoon, Medium, and DZone, or follow Orchestrate All the Things on your social media of choice.
So one of my own mantras is, you're only as free to the degree you actually know what determines you, right? So if you don't know the forces that are trying to shape you, you're not really free. It's only when you know the manipulations, and then you can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not really free. You think you're free, but you're not. So that you're in order to have agency, you actually have to know what's non-agency, basically.
The first thing to make clear when talking about AI is what exactly do we mean? And this is also an argument that many knowledgeable people in the domain, but actually also an argument that every reasonable person should make. So, and I want to bring an example here. So if we, instead of talking about like cars and airplanes and motorbikes, we used the word vehicle for all of those and said like, oh, I'm traveling tomorrow with a vehicle, or I'm going to take this vehicle to go to downtown. It would be super confusing, and we would not be able to make out what we mean. So this is the exact way that
there's like different types of AI, and everything is put in the same pot, and you want to make distinctions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening to us. So my name is Michel Bauwens. I'm the founder of the P2P Foundation. We had a first podcast in which we explained the first week of our collaboration, which would be a seminar on the meaning of civilization and the meaning of our transition and where we are going, and how knowledge about that can change our lives. But the second week of our collaboration will be my friend George Anadiotis, which I've known for probably 10, 12 years by now. And we held many conversations, and he's the tech guy, in my view of the world, who has been organizing tech conferences and who really knows a lot about AI. And so the second week will be an introduction to pragmatic AI. So when to use it, when not to use it, what is good for, what is bad for. Okay, like I'm anticipating the content of the course. I will ask George exactly what he plans. But maybe first, George, I want to ask you to present yourself. Like, who are you, and how did you come to this kind of like interest in technology and in tools?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm glad to do that, and I think it also makes sense because by explaining who I am and how I got to where I am here, I think that largely informs my approach to AI. So yes, you're right. I'm a techie by education. My background is in computer science. I did a bachelor and a master's degree in computer science, and then things started getting well. After that, I did a number of conventional things, and then a number of unconventional things. So the conventional things were I went into industry and I worked as a software engineer and architect for about a decade, give or take, and doing consulting and that kind of stuff. And that went well, but I reached a point where I felt like I've had basically done what there is to do and seen what there is to see in that domain. So I started getting restless, and I wanted to use all these skills that technology provided in a different way, in a different context, and for a different purpose. And that was the point in time when actually you could say that I first got into AI. I became interested in what is known as knowledge representation and reasoning and its intersection with distributed systems. And that's the point where I went into research, basically. So this is the start of the unconventional part, because for most people, research happens as a direct continuation of their studies. In my case, it didn't work that way, and that created a number of interesting situations. But the point is that that's when I first got to meet AI. But keep in mind, that was circa 2005, let's say. So at that point in time, what is now known as AI in most people's minds, so the type of pattern matching, machine learning, data science driven thing was actually not in vogue, let's say. So AI in general was not in vogue at the time. As we'll find out in the course, this is the first part, actually, the history of AI. There are these waves in the history of AI, the so-called winters and summers of AI. So we were going at the time through a winter time in AI, and people were not even calling it that. And the type of thing that I first got to do, so knowledge representation and reasoning, is the old type of AI, let's say. The one that is a direct continuation of when AI was first initiated, somewhere back in the 50s. So that was my first touch with the field. And then moving forward, I stayed in research for a few years, then moved back to industry, or rather, I should say, on the intersection of industry and research, and worked in industrial research for a number of years. And then since 2012, so for the last, let's say, 15 years or so, I've been a solopreneur. And throughout that time, I've been using AI in a number of different ways. So one of the things I've been doing is I've been a contributor to different publications. And so a very practical use of AI that I've always longed for and has finally started working in the last maybe 6-7 years is AI for transcription, for example, or using AI for generating content. So these are the more modern types of AI. So actually
Which
generative AI.
LLMs are particularly good at, right? The new wave of AI is specifically kind of designed for that.
Exactly. So yes, actually, to make a long story short, the first thing to make clear when talking about AI is what exactly do we mean. And this is also an argument that many knowledgeable people in the domain, but actually also an argument that every reasonable person should make. So, and I want to bring an example here. So if we, instead of talking about like cars and airplanes and motorbikes, we used the word vehicle for all of those, and said like, oh, I'm traveling tomorrow with a vehicle, or I'm going to take this vehicle to go to downtown. It would be super confusing, and we would not be able to make out what we mean. So this is the exact
You
way
think
that
there's
we
like different types of AI, which and everything is put in the same pot, and you want to make distinctions.
Exactly, yeah. So this is the first place to start when we talk about AI. What exactly do we mean? And then in order to do that, you have to retrace the history a little bit, and then you have to start talking about, okay, so there's different types of AI, how each type of these types works, and what can it do, what is it good for, the good sides, the bad sides, and so on. So in a nutshell, the goal of this course is not to make you prompt better. It's not to make you a data scientist. It's also not to make you, buy a subscription for whatever platform and then start burning tokens and then, create thousands of agents that will run your life. It's neither of these things. It is to give you the first principles, and then also to teach you how to apply these first principles using free and open source tools that are tailored to your specific situation.
Yeah.
And then we use real world data sets, and at the end of the course, the idea is that you know what AI is, you know what AI does, you know how it works, you know how the tool works, you know how to work with data. Plus, the last part that brings everything together is fine. Now that you've learned all these different tools and techniques, how can you actually use them in an organizational context? So, what are the use cases that you can apply this to? How should you choose? What are the pros and cons? How do you make a project plan? How do you build a team? How do you deploy? All of these things are part of this course.
Wow. Okay. So is it okay? Who is your target? Like, what kind of people would you like to come?
Right, that's an excellent question, and one that actually I've been sharing the agenda and the syllabus for this course with a few friends of mine, some of which are very, very knowledgeable and have a background in AI themselves. And some of them, at least, had a hard time figuring out this exact question, like, okay, who is this for exactly? So it's not for people who aspire to become data scientists. I mean, there are dedicated courses for that if you want to, like, upskill and learn how to program in Python and do all of those things. And actually, a word of warning. So if that is your goal, you actually need to do a lot of self-study. It's, don't believe promises like, attend this course and become a data scientist in like a week or something. It's not going to happen. I can promise you that. So it is for people like creatives, entrepreneurs, managers,
Okay, that's
executives,
interesting.
solopreneurs. So people who don't necessarily have a technical background, who hear about, all the hype and all the promise and are kind of dumbfounded. And I want to give those people the tools and the mental framework to be really able to make the most of it.
So okay, maybe I can take my own case. I'm fairly uh, I won't say literate because so I work with knowledge, and I've
Mhm,
used a lot of tools to work with knowledge, but I'm not interested in tech itself, right? So,
mhm,
for example, when I was using open source tools way back, I'm talking about 15 years ago, and I had like to spend an hour a day to solve all kinds of issues. For me, that wasn't worth it. Like, no, I don't want to
mhm.
spend an hour a day, debugging and so it has to work.
Yeah.
And so with AI, I'm pretty sure I only use like the really basic levels. I use ChatGPT and DeepSeek.
Mhm,
Uh, One is open source, but I also use the free version of ChatGPT, and I just ask it fairly elaborate questions,
mhm.
like for my research, because I'm basically like researching civilizational history and writing articles and preparing lectures and all of that, right? And so, yeah, that's the only way I use AI, and I'm not particularly motivated to use it more. I actually don't want AI to run my life.
Mhm.
I don't think I want all these agents running around. I don't know. But okay, so okay, I'm just a particular person. So why would I come?
Why did you come? Uh, a number of reasons. Well, first of all, because regardless of whether you are interested in, running agents or having, I don't know, a smart home that, will detect when you are feeling drowsy and do something with the lights or all of that stuff, other people are going to do that, actually are already doing that. And organizations are adopting this technology already. So whether we like it or not, and actually personally, I also feel the same way as you do. I don't want, to go like full on with AI and give my own agency away. Regardless, however, I think every single one of us needs to know how they work, because if you don't, there's a number of side effects. Well, you get into this sort of magical thinking, let's say, that if you hear all the if you are exposed to all this hype around us, I think if you don't know exactly how these things work, inevitably at some point you will start double guessing yourself, like, oh, maybe, if everybody's saying that, maybe there is, some kind of sentience, some kind of
Right.
intelligence into the machine, and you start falling for that. And I think that's a very dangerous path to follow. So part of what I want to do is, de decast the spell, let's say. So by showing
That's
you,
very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I have my own worries about AI, which is mostly that it's we have this tendency to project on the world, right? And we project on people, we project on situations, and I really have a worry of people giving their agency away and considering their AI as like a mentor and a psychologist, a
Mhm.
spiritual advisor, and considering them as persons, and I do not believe they are. So I'm in this debate with some people who says, we should treat AI as partners. I personally, I don't think so. I think they're tools, and we should treat them as tools. Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean we should insult them when we ask them a question. But for example, I don't thank them because they're not persons, and
Yes.
I'm a
Yes.
very friendly person with other people, but I see certain dangers in giving too much, project too much human agency in this in programs, basically.
Yes, yes, yes. There is. There are many dangers by doing so. First of all, the psychological dependency, I would call it.
Mm.
And I think that for some people, at least, this is already happening. I mean, I've seen like published accounts of people who claim to have shared like their innermost thoughts, and they're getting very emotional with this tool, and they also feel like, so I've heard like accounts from friends of friends, actually, like, something like they will go on a trip and they will converse with their AI to ask them like, where should I go, what should I do, and they claim to have found like, a partner in this
Right. Yeah.
conversation. So I think this tells us more about the people than it does about the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, can you give me like a idealized scenario? So I follow your course for a week, and how am I different?
How are you different? Okay, so by the end of the week, what's going to ideally happen is that you will have an understanding of the different types of AI and how they work. Plus, you will also have hands-on knowledge of how it works. So, how you can get from raw data. For example, we'll get a real-world data set of sales, like
Mm.
from retail stores, and I'll show you exactly how the people who build these types of algorithms work. So how to clean the data, how to integrate the data, how to bring it together, and then how to use it to produce machine learning models that are able to give you predictions on sales, for example, or different other machine learning models that can classify input into certain categories, or these types of things. All of that stuff is commodity right now. So, for
Mm.
example, every time you buy something on an online store, you have recommendation algorithms that are running in the background and try to keep you engaged and try to keep you online for as long as possible. So, having this knowledge of how these things work empower you to operate in a world that's increasingly powered by these algorithms.
Very
Plus,
excited. Yeah. So one of my own mantras is, you're only as free to the degree actually know what determines you, right? So if you don't know the forces that are trying to shape you, you're not really free. It's only when you know, the manipulations, and then you can.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're not really free. You think you're free, but you're not. So that you're in order to have agency, you actually have to know what's where what's non-agency basically. You have
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
exactly.
All right.
Plus,
Is there
there is
anything? Yeah. Go ahead.
another benefit. So this is on the, I don't know, on the personal development or personal agency level, but there is also another very real benefit, which is on the organizational level or productivity level. So by knowing how to do this, basically, so how you can also develop algorithms to make use of your data, you can start thinking about use cases that apply to you specifically, or even in your organizational context. So, for example, I have this historical sales data or outreach data in my own organization. How can I potentially use them to automate processes or to create opportunities or to solve problems? So this will open an array of potential use cases and benefits as well.
All right. Is there anything you would have liked me to ask you, which I didn't? Like, or any conclusion?
Hmm. Actually, I think the one part that we haven't mentioned so far is the situational awareness part. So all of
Okay.
that is very, so to make it more concrete, I just gave this exact same course a couple of months ago in an online format. And the format there was every week we had two sessions of 2 hours each, and then we had a unit of work, some theory, some labs. I should also mention that this course is designed so that it's exactly split 50-50 between theory and lab. So everything that we tell, we actually put in practice immediately. And because I think I found that this is the only way to learn and to
Right.
retain learning. But besides that, it's not going to be, this is not an online format. It's a live interactive class. We're all in the same classroom, and even it goes beyond the classroom because it's the format is designed in such a way. It's a weekly course, so that means that we have a couple of weeks in the beginning of a couple of days in the beginning of the week. So Monday and Tuesday, it's full-on courses, 8 hours, of course, with breaks in between. And after the classes, there's a number of things that happen. So after the classes, we can all get together. It's going to be held on site on Lake Caiaphas, which is an amazing scenery. It combines everything: lake, sea, mountains, ancient sites that we're also going to be touring your course. So there's a few parts to that. The class itself, which is going to have this interactive live learning format. Post class, which is going to be in a leisurely place and pace. And we're all going to be getting together for lunches and drinks around the pool. It's going to take place in a non-inclusive resort. So everything is covered. You don't need to worry about, where am I going to get lunch or dinner or
Right.
anything. We have a day of break in between, so Wednesday is off because there's a lot of knowledge flying around and we need some
Yeah. We
time.
need
And
to
we're going to
digest. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect. Yeah.
so we're going to be touring around the area a little bit, and we're going to be visiting like a local winery, some olive groves, my olive grove in specific. So I'm going to be showing you that as well. So how to produce olive
Nice.
oil. And yeah, so this is a very, very unique, I would say, course. I've actually spent a lot of time taking as many courses as possible and studying syllabi and doing all of that. I've never found anything quite like this.
All right. Great. So that's unique.
Yeah,
Unique combination.
yeah.
Yeah. And do you think this it's good for people maybe to take the two courses as or
I do see it as a sort of natural continuum, let's say, because the first week is the grounding, the literary and intellectual framework. You also talk about things like pattern recognition and agency and all of that stuff on the theoretical level, let's say, and grounded on your knowledge and study of history and philosophy and civilizational patterns. And actually, your I would say that my course starts where your course ends. So the last part of your course is okay, so based on all of that and what's happening today and all this technological progress and where it's leading us, these are some potential paths. And
Well,
the,
I can tell you that we had this festival here in Chiang Mai called Wamotopia about civilization AI, and
Mhm.
so I gave three seminars to people who are involved in AI, and it really worked well. So I'm quite confident about
Yeah,
that one helps understand the other. Like
exactly, exactly.
if you understand the role of technology in human history, and what it can do, but also why technology on its own is not enough,
Yeah,
then you have a better attitude towards technology, and you're not a believer, and you're also not like a luddite who refuses everything, but you can adapt it, and be free in your adaptation of the technology and to the technology.
yeah,
Instead
yeah,
of being kind of a slave to it, and what, because the people who are in the business of the technology, they always say, if you're not part of the road, you're the road. you know if like, if yeah, anyway, so the idea that you have to join or you're dead, and I don't think that's healthy. I think it's really up to society, community, individuals to actually you know be autonomous in the way they choose what technology to use.
well,
No,
I want to share an anecdote here. Well, actually, not
no,
an anecdote technically because it's published, but one of the things I do, I also have, well, as we're doing now for the podcast, I also have a number of different guests over time. So, one of them actually in one of the previous episodes was a guy that has been Facebook product manager for a number of years, and he's also, he has very deep background in AI. He uses AI every day. He's super knowledgeable about both AI and how big tech uses and promotes AI. And you know what he said? He said, "Well, you know what? Back in my Facebook days, one of the issues we had then was the horizon issue, because we couldn't plan longer than 6 months, because it was just the incentive structure was so jumbled up that our projects had an horizon of 6 months. And I do believe that what's happening today, this ultra acceleration that we're seeing in AI innovation today, is deliberate, and it's driven by big tech precisely because of this internal structure, and precisely because they are, at this point in time, these technology companies are the steam engine of capitalism, which has otherwise run out of steam. And
yeah,
AI is, they're the steam engine of the steam engine.
yeah,
So
they're
they're
betting everything on it. They're
exactly
buying each other's technology to pump up their
evaluation. Yeah.
accounting and value, and
Yeah.
if it fails, it's going to be devastating for the American economy, which is like really a huge bet on only that, and that's really really dangerous. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, George, thank you so much for your insights and sharing. And I for one, I look forward to join your course. I will certainly learn a lot, and I want to get more immersed. So this is going to be good. And so I hope other people will join us and benefit from your experience and wisdom. So I think if you agree, George, we can wrap up our session.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And
I could talk about that for hours, but instead of me doing that here, well, you can come join the course, and then we can do it there.
great, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.